Hey everyone, Principal Hennig here. We are back for another Skyline Student Spotlight, and this is episode 12. And today we have Anushka, who is joining us, who is a current Skyline sophomore. Anushka, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe some of the things you like to do, not only at Skyline, but also outside of Skyline.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to talk to you more. My name's Anushka, and as you mentioned, I'm a sophomore at Skyline High School. And I would say that I'm really passionate about diversity, equity, and human rights. So I do a lot of community work relating to that. And I also really love to be active. So aside from that, I play golf at Skyline on the girls' golf team. And I also play badminton and do dance on the side. And then as a hobby, I also love to learn languages.
That's awesome. It sounds like you keep yourself extremely busy, not just at Skyline, but outside of Skyline. So great work on all that. Hey, the last 13 months, 14 months have been pretty challenging. Anything new that you learned about yourself? Any new skills you developed? Anything you focused on the last 14 months?
Yeah, so I definitely agree. I think the past 6 months, we can safely say, has been really difficult for all of us. And I know it's definitely had a this devastating impact on the whole world. But I think if we sort of look on the positive side, I think one of the benefits that this pandemic has had is that it's really allowed us to step back and sort of reflect about on ourselves, on our life, what we're doing. And I think I've kind of learned through this time to really focus on self-care. So I know it's a little, cliche, but I think it's so important because before the pandemic, there was so much, hustle and bustle in life. But I think ever since like this pandemic hit us, I realized that it's, important to have ambition, have goals, but actually taking care of yourself is really important to prevent burnout and really make sure your mental health is in a good state. So I've
That's
definitely.
That's great. I think self-care has been so important, and I couldn't agree with you more on that. Hey, we talk at Skyline about graduating to something, and I know being a sophomore, you still have a couple of years left, but those couple of years are going to fly by. But think about after Skyline. What are some things that you want to do after Skyline? What do you want to graduate to?
Yeah, so I currently am really interested in the science field or STEM field. So I probably want to do something related to that. But since I'm also really interested in activism and human rights, I think I might want to combine the two. So I can see myself doing something as a doctor, trying to provide, healthcare to underprivileged communities. And I really love learning about different cultures. So I would love to travel around the world and work in healthcare and work with underprivileged communities. So yeah, doing some sort of nonprofit work with UNICEF, UN, something like that on a global scale.
That's awesome. That sounds really exciting. Hey, as we wrap up our interview here, any words of advice for any current or rising Spartans? Anything you want to share with anybody?
Yeah, I would definitely say that follow your passion. I think that's something that I have kind of seen myself do over the past year and a half is when you follow your passion, I think you really put in a lot more effort and it doesn't seem like work anymore because you really just are doing things you enjoy. So, I've been doing work with like Native communities since that relates to my passion for diversity. And I started like a website and podcast. So since those are things that I really enjoy, it hasn't really seemed like work to me. It's more seemed like something I'm interested in doing. So I would just say follow your passion and do what you really care about because that's what will really drive you forward.
Great. Hey, great advice to everyone, really, not just current Spartans or rising Spartans, but really great advice for everyone. Thanks for sharing that. All right, Anushka, we really appreciate you joining us. Again, episode 12 of Skyline Student Spotlight. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time, okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll see you.